Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here with another installment of I Finally Watched It. This time around, we're taking a look at The Hitcher from 1986, starring Rutger Hauer, C. Thomas Howell, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. The film was written by Eric Red and directed by Robert Harmon. And yeah, this one is 38 years old, so expect some spoilers. That's it. You've been warned. The story begins with our protagonist Jim Halsey, played by C. Thomas Howell, as he's driving across country from Illinois to San Diego and has a run-in with Rutger Hauer's titular Hitcher, who goes by the name John Ryder. Things get awkward pretty quick, and after narrowly escaping his new nemesis, Jim finds that it won't be that easy to slip away because the Hitcher has zeroed in on him and is dead set on making his life a living hell. Shout out to DTS51 Sound, one of our great subscribers here at the channel, for suggesting that we cover the film here. Thank you so much, Ivan. Really appreciate you tuning in and throwing out the recommendation. And before we get going, please leave a like for the video, hit subscribe to see more, and drop on into the comments section. It really helps our visibility as the channel continues to grow. So like a lot of times when I do these reviews, I like to jump on the IMDb page, check out the trivia section, just see, what I may be missing from the behind the scenes or, where the story came from and all that. And I found here that the story was inspired by Riders on the Storm by the Doors, and I think one verse in particular, so I want to read that to you guys here really quick. There's a killer on the road. His brain is squirming like a toad. Take a long holiday, let your children play. If you give this man a ride, sweet family will die. Killer on the road, yeah. The first thing that stood out to me here is there is tension right out of the gate. Jim is driving along in the middle of the night. It's about 4 in the morning. He's fighting off sleep. He almost runs head on into a semi-truck. A storm happens. He sees the hitchhiker and he figures, well, I might as well pick this guy up. It's only gonna help me make this drive safely. Yeah, about that. Rutger Hauer is disturbingly mesmerizing here. He's got this wild-eyed stare that pulls you in like a tractor beam and simultaneously scares the hell out of you. And another thing that I learned from the IMDb trivia is that Hauer improvised putting that knife as close to Howell's eye as he did, and really freaked him out while they were shooting the entire film, actually. Specifically that scene, but also just how intimidating he is with just a look alone. The story has a classic feel and kind of reminds me of like an R-rated feature-length episode of something like The Twilight Zone. It's a cautionary tale where our hero just can't seem to catch a break, running into obstacle after obstacle, and is just looking for some sort of lifeline. In fact, if there's one criticism that I have here, it's just that the story is so simple and really repetitive. I kind of wanted a scene before the movie starts where we get to learn a little bit about Jim. I always say that I like mystery with characters, so I don't need like a whole backstory, but just a little breadcrumb to show us that he has a tough time with confrontation or a difficult time standing up for himself, and it just would have kind of cascaded into the rest of the film, given him a bit more of an arc, and also just slowed down some of the repetitive nature of the film's events. As the story moves on, Jim looks for a safe place to hide, and that's where he bumps into Jennifer Jason Leigh's character Nash, who works at a remote diner/gas station. However, along the way, the Hitcher is leaving a trail of bodies and framing Jim for every little bit of it, so it's not long before Jim has a run-in with the law. Before I forget, I have to mention just how many beautiful landscape shots there are here. A lot of the film is really intimate and close quarters, but every now and then they take these moments to just kind of let the story breathe, and you get these great shots of characters pitted against these gorgeous backdrops. It kind of reminds you that you're out there in the middle of nowhere just like they are. After the Hitcher makes short work of the police while Jim is having a little nap in his jail cell, he's once again on the run where he bumps into Nash, and she hears his plight and decides that she has to help him prove his innocence. The two get into an extended epic car chase with the authorities, and much to everyone's surprise, they're assisted by none other than the Hitcher himself. And as the story goes on, it just sort of feels like the Hitcher is like challenging Jim to rise to the occasion and actually do something, which is one of the reasons why I'd love to see a little bit about Jim before the story gets started, because it seems like the Hitcher has a death wish and sort of wants Jim to be the one to do it. It's sort of echoed in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, where I feel like the whole purpose of the Joker in that movie is just to push Batman to the end of his rope and make him do what has to be done. After the car chase, Jim and Nash check into a motel where they plan their next steps, but it's not long before the Hitcher finds them, and there's a no-win situation for Jim where unfortunately Nash pays the ultimate price. Now, unfortunately on the filmmaking side here, there's kind of a jarring cutaway during Nash's death scene where it's sort of left up in the air for a few seconds as to what happens. I don't really know why they decided to cut away the way that they did. There's plenty of gore throughout the film that gets shown. I mean, it's not a bloodbath or anything, but they're not afraid to show headshots and bullets going through people's necks. But here they just took a more subtle approach, and I was kind of left scratching my head for a few seconds before they made it totally clear. And it's too bad really, because this is a moment that could have had a great impact. You still could have been subtle with it and shown something. It doesn't have to, completely disrespect the character or be over the top. But I felt like there was something left on the table here. The Hitcher is finally apprehended, but much like my guy Michael Myers, there's no way he can be contained. And the comparison to Myers is actually pretty appropriate here, because I think the Hitcher sort of acts like a force of nature in this movie, just like Myers is in Halloween. The film culminates with a showdown between Jim and the Hitcher, and even though Jim has struggled to pull the figurative and literal trigger for the entire movie, he knows what has to be done and that he's got to put an end to the Hitcher for good. Closing the film is another beautiful shot. Great contrast with the black and the orange as Jim just leans up against the truck and finally finds some relief after a crazy couple of days. But can he move on and have a normal life from here? Or has this whole experience changed him in a way in which he can never recover? That's gonna wrap it up for The Hitcher, and here I am again, very happy to have seen a movie that I've never watched before. I've seen people cover it on YouTube, I've heard really great things, and just for whatever reason never got around to it until now. So not a perfect film by any stretch. I mentioned the repetitive nature. I think the story kind of drags a little bit because of that. But man, some really strong, intimate performances, great use of the camera, and a really intense story throughout. Thank you so much for tuning into this installment of I Finally Watched It. Please click the like button if you enjoy this kind of content, hit subscribe to see more, and drop on into the comments section below to tell me your thoughts on The Hitcher and what you want to see here on the channel. If you drop a suggestion and I use it in an episode, I will give you a shout out. I love having that kind of interaction with you guys. Until next time, I've been and will continue to be Davey Deathray. Take care.